Hello, how are y'all doing? I'm excited for this conversation. Let me pull this up in the group and we will get started. We're taking a slightly different angle today on our conversation. I feel like this is actually a really important concept as well as the details we're going to get into. And we're going to dive into what my clients making 250K years and above up to the $2 million per year mark don't focus on. And the reason, I just want to pull this up in the group so I can make sure I can see your all comments, because for some reason the Facebook app thing doesn't show them to me. Here we go. Okay, if you're here, by the way, say hello. Let me know you are live. I like to have a conversation with you and always like to answer your questions. If you're listening later in the vault, you can always DM me on Instagram or hop into my Facebook group if you have questions or anything you want me to do another live stream topic around. And if you're watching this in the group and you don't know what the vault is, we have a private podcast feed, because I know when we ended my podcast, some of y'all really prefer the podcast format versus the live formats. I'll drop a link for that, but a private podcast feed where we turn each of these mini master classes I have every week into a podcast episode for you, and you get them about the week later. So obviously would always love to have you first live where we get to have this conversation. I feel like it's so much juicier to be able to answer your questions live, but you can always access those past classes in the vault. So again, I'll drop a link for that. Okay, all of the prefaces aside, let's dive into this conversation. So before I dive into some specifics around what my clients aren't focused on, let me explain why even this topic and kind of the lens through it. So something I have really noticed over the years, I've been coaching for 10 years, in business for a little over 8, and I've been supporting clients only one-on-one. I mean, I've tested some other models, but I've been primarily, and in the last 5-6 years, only focused on one-on-one, and have supported clients to multi-six and seven figures. I supported my first client past the $1 million mark year, my first year coaching, so 8 years ago, and have kind of ever since. And because I have a one-on-one model, I have a really front row seat, or a really close seat to behind the scenes to what clients are and aren't doing. So I'm not just seeing the strategy we're working on, the mindset, but I'm having conversations around what they're focused on, what they're not focused on. And similar, I'm just in a couple spaces, thanks to being in business so long, and for because of the business I have, I'm in pure masterminds and paid masterminds. So I'm just seeing a lot of behind the scenes. And something I just think is really interesting to think about is, yes, of course, looking at what do business owners who are making the kind of money you want to make, or more, what are they doing? What are they thinking? Who are they being? What's the strategy they're using? I think that is really helpful to understand, right? The whole concept of success leaves clues. Success absolutely leaves clues. And what I think we sometimes fail to understand with that concept of success leaves clues is what isn't a clue is also a clue, right? If you ever watch a detective show, sometimes it's the thing that isn't there that gives them a lot of information. And so when I look at clients who are making 250K, 500K, 700K, $1 million plus, up to the $200 million plus mark, if I were to just look at success leaves clues in terms of, what are their habits? What is their mindset? What are their challenges? What's the strategy they're using? What's the niche they have? What's the offer they have? I think it would actually be quite confusing, because frankly, all of them have different business models. They have different niches. They have different offers. They even have different practices, right? Some of my clients really like more somatic mindset work. Some of my clients really love journaling. Some of them like tapping. I mean, there's so many nuances there. They all have different challenges and struggles they're working. Some of them are nighttime people. Some of them are morning people. Some of them are, what we'd consider kind of how I identify as a little bit more of a high performer, like maybe veer towards overworking. Some of them are not lazy at all, but would say they're more procrastinators and a little bit on the like having a harder time getting into motivation, right? It runs the gamut. And so I think if we're just looking at, or some of them have one-on-one models, some of them have groups, some of them have memberships, some of them have courses, some of them have big teams, some of them have really lean teams, right? If we're just looking at that as success leaves clues, I think that can be very confusing. So of course there's things you can borrow from there. I'm not saying don't ever look at those things. We talk about that as well, and I think that can be valuable. But I do want to take a different lens today and to also look at what aren't successful, profitable business owners doing, because as much as we want to look at what someone is doing, what someone isn't doing can also be such a clue. If you want to get in shape, for example, I think I said this in the email, for this live stream, right? If fitness is your goal, of course, it's helpful to look at what are other people maybe in the sport you're wanting to do. What is their training regimen? What is their eating? What are they doing? Can be very valuable. But my guess is if you also looked at the choices and the things they're not doing, that would tell you just as much as to some of the clues to their success. For example, I bet some of the things they're not doing is drinking a whole bunch before a training day, or staying up super late, or saying yes to blowing off their workout instead of going to the gym, right? Like there's probably a lot of things they're not focused on that are contributing to the results. If you look at someone who has a really successful relationship, right? For as much as we can look at like what are those qualities that help them to have a successful relationship, you could also learn a lot about what helps them to have a successful relationship by what they're choosing not to focus on and not do. I mean, this sounds like so overly obvious, but my guess is people who have a successful relationship, one of the things they're not focused on are other people. Right? And so it sounds, again, I think a little obvious, but I think this can be really helpful for us. So I pulled up a couple of notes here. So just thinking through my clients, and obviously this feels important to always say, I am not saying that you are only successful when you make 250K years or more. I have plenty of clients who are making six figures. I have plenty of clients who are starting businesses and very successful and great at what they do. So I don't want you to hear this conversation. I always want to be so mindful of that, right? You can be a success at every revenue level. And I know many of you, and what I talk a lot about is, bringing your business to a stable place of 250K years or above, so that you have the revenue coming in through your business that's consistent, that's stable, but that is able to allow you to cover your business expenses, taxes, and then still give you a really healthy profit margin. So you're able to pay yourself six figures, because for most of you, not everybody, but for most of you, I know you don't want to just make six figures. You want to be able to pay yourself six figures or more. So that's why I'm looking at that marker here. If that's helpful to understand, I talk about that in my masterclass, 20K Months Multiplied, where I talk about the 5 components that you need to sustainably scale. I'll drop a link for that because it's completely free. But that's just why this is not to say if you're making six figures, you are not successful. You are successful if you are showing up to do the damn thing in business. If you have one client and you are making $1 or $1,000, right? Like that's a success in business. And I know this happens to be a place, many of us are looking at kind of what does it take and what do I need to not focus on to get to that place where I can pay myself six figures or more. So hopefully that makes sense. Feels important to speak to. I don't know how many of these we'll get through today. And I just realized I did not set my timer. I always have to set my timer, y'all. This is so funny. Probably all are like, Kim, really? But I have to set my timer because I have client calls after this, and I just love hanging out with y'all so much. And I can be a bit long-winded, and I would sit here and talk for like 3 hours if I didn't have a timer to remind me to wrap things up. So needed to do that because I forgot to do that. So let's talk about one of the first ones. I think this is a bit more on the mindset side, and I think this is a really important one that I think many business owners don't realize how much focusing time on this really costs you in terms of time, energy, bandwidth, sustainability, business, but literally money in your business, and how much this can really sabotage business. So my clients who are at the 250K mark and above, what I see they don't focus on is they don't use their sessions to compare or to blame. Now, I'm going to give some nuance here, and I'm going to give some explanation. So let me give explanation first. The reason I see this to be such a big part of what's contributing to their success is they're really mindful to use their sessions for what's going to most support them to sustain and scale their business. And they know, whether this is consciously or, maybe it's not quite as conscious of a thing, spending a whole session comparing themselves to someone else or blaming, say, a team member or something like that is a really invaluable use of their time and their session time, because they know at the end of the day that isn't what moves their business forward. Not only is it having them focus on the very thing they don't want, and if we believe what you focus on expands, which I definitely believe just from both a science lens in terms of how your brain works, but also from a manifesting lens. So if we, believe what you focus on expands, right? This is not what we want to focus on, but also from the perspective of, if this is where your time and energy is going, it is very easy. Let's just use comparison as an example. If you're stuck in comparison and that's what all of your energy is going towards and that's what you're focused on, it's very easy then to start doing things in your business, picking up strategies, picking up languaging and messaging, creating offers, creating freebies, creating content, right? Doing things in your business that are based on that comparison. So this is not only just like, this is a mindset fuck that, will derail your energy and focus and keep you unfocused from what you want to create. But this can often quite literally have business owners end up implementing things in their business that are out of alignment that will move them further away from the results they want and take them out of their own voice, speaking their truth, speaking their thought leadership, creating the offers that are really in alignment for them. I will use myself as an example here, and then I'm going to speak to some nuance because, of course, my clients are humans, and as a human, you're wired to compare, and I want to make sure we touch on that. But I'll use myself as an example here. I feel like I've been a little bit more of a tear on this on Instagram recently, and that's just being quite transparent around the fact that I've had to be quite intentional with a one-on-one only model to really stay in my lane and to be mindful of keeping the guardrails on. And I've just done a lot of work where I'm not interested in comparing myself to other business owners, other models, other people making more money than me, because I know if I did that, it would not only be, it would spin me out all of the time, right? And then I wouldn't be able to create the great money that I do in my business, but it would also have me start chasing things that really are out of alignment. And I mean, this is almost a whole nother conversation, but I have just seen over and over and over again how much when you're in alignment with your offers, with your message, with your work, with what you want to show up for. So not just your offer and your message, but just in terms of how you as an individual, or I have clients who are parents, and there are certain things that are going to be in and out of alignment for how they want to work, how many hours they want to work, for example. When I see anyone out of alignment, I have just always seen how, even if it's not immediate, how at some point that will cap revenue ability, or sometimes it will just full on put a block to that revenue, and how when we're in alignment, it is just so much easier to make money, even if it's not, the way someone else you're comparing to is. But that alignment piece, and again, I'm going a little bit down a rabbit hole here, but this actually feels quite important. I've just seen through myself and through clients how much that affects your ability to not just make revenue once, but to sustain and keep making revenue, and then your ability to scale. And I'm mindful always to talk about that because I think alignment has such a buzzword in our space. I think it's almost been used to the point of it doesn't mean anything anymore, or it can just feel very fluffy. But truly, 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 that is one of the things. It's why I talk so much about making money on your own terms, or running a business on your own terms, or creating your version of success. It's not because I think those are fun things to say. It's because I just really have seen how that makes all the fucking difference for not just how you feel day to day, but your ability to make, sustain, scale revenue. So bringing it back to the comparison piece, I've just really seen how clients at the, could be 225K, but around this mark and above, they've just really done the work to stay focused and in their own lane. Because yes, it makes them feel better, but also for this alignment reason, because they know when they're in comparison, not only does it make you feel like shit, right? Like there's studies around this. We tend not to compare down, we tend to compare up, meaning when we compare, we look for someone who's further ahead of us to compare ourselves to, and we make ourselves feel like shit. They've done studies with people who have won like the Olympics, and it's really interesting. The person who wins the gold obviously feels great. People who win silver, on average, feel the worst, and people who win bronze, I think, feel better even than, or like report feeling happier than even people who win the gold. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's true. But the reason is the person who wins the silver is comparing themselves, and they're just seeing what they're missing out on to the gold, right? They're comparing themselves upward, and they're like, oh, like if I had just done X, Y, and Z, or like they have what I don't want to have, like it is diminishing their happiness. When you're in bronze, I think what happens there is you're actually just like, oh, look at all, like I could have just not even been on the podium. Look at everything. Like they tend to compare themselves downward in terms of like, look at everything I just beat out. I'm so happy to be here. So I think obviously comparison can really, it's what is it, the quote, it's the thief of all joy. I think it is really the thief of all joy, but it's not just the thief of all joy. It is the thing that will take you out of alignment and out of your own lane. And it seems so backwards, but when you're in comparison and you start doing that thing where you're comparing to the person who seems further ahead of you, and look, we could have all the analogies here and say that they're just further along in their journey and they have a different business model, like all of the things. But at the end of the day, what you're doing is you're taking your focus off of your own paper and putting it onto someone else's, and that will fuck with your results. I don't know how to make, like, it's the alignment piece, but it also just means you're no longer focused on the things that create you results because you're too focused on what someone else is doing. And I feel like these are like all the analogies and cliches, but you know, it makes me think about the horse with the blinders on, right? The reason they put blinders on a horse is if a horse is looking at another horse's lane, right, they're not focused on where they want to go. They can't win their own race. They can't win the race, period, because they're just going to go into the other lane, you know, to where they're looking. I am not a horse race expert, but I believe that's where that comes from. So this is really why I see this being such an important thing not to focus on. And blame is the other side to this. So there's comparison. I also just see clients at this stage of business really doing the work to take personal responsibility and to not blame. And this is really important with the blame piece. Blame has 2 parts. They're not blaming others, but they're also not blaming themselves. So when we say take personal responsibility, I find look, this is the work I've had to do as well. I find for a lot of my clients, and you're probably like them, they are so quick to be hard on themselves. They almost have like an over taking personal responsibility. I know that's a challenge I have. I can almost like take too much responsibility. Definitely done work around that in therapy and all of the places, right? I think there can be a little bit of, what's the terminology I'm looking for here? It's not hyper-independence. It's not codependency. What is the word? Someone wants to put in the comments. It's when you're over-functioning. That's the term, over-functioning, right? There can almost be this over-functioning ability, and I think particularly for those of you who are caring and heart-centered and who can be empathetic, right? Who can be empathetic and understand why people do the things they do, but who also don't want to be a part of a problem, right? If we are saying the industry has problems and there's problems in the personal development space, right? I think it's very easy to then either want to blame others or to have that turn inwards. And I find for most people, they do one or the other. Right? Blame others or turn the blame inwards. I find for a lot of my clients, they don't blame outwards, they blame themselves. But I think for all of us, it's really great to see what is your tendency. Do you have a tendency to be, hyper over responsible, you want to blame yourself, or to blame others? And instead, the shift is how can you take personal responsibility, meaning just what is yours to be responsible for, and then what do you need to give responsibility back to others? I talk with clients about this a lot in terms of like, oh, you're being a little responsibility thief. You're taking on responsibility for shit that's just not yours. You need to go give that back to the person it belongs to. I think about this a lot with revenue share. I have a revenue sharing model where I get paid a base rate plus 10% revenue share. I always think my responsibility is to show up 100% for that investment and for the 10%. And that means that my clients have 100% responsibility to show up for their investment and the 90% in their business, right? The reason I get paid 10% of clients' new revenue and not 90% is because there's only so much I can really be responsible for, but I am 100% responsible for my 10% and for that base rate investment. I literally can't be responsible for the other 90%. That doesn't make any sense. I would have to be the business owner, and that's not why anybody's hiring me. But the reason I'm saying all of this, because again, otherwise today will be like tangent day. But the reason I'm saying all of this is just seeing that this is really what I see clients at this stage really paying attention to, and what they're just not focused on is things that aren't their responsibility. Like they're really doing the work to get clear on what is my personal responsibility, and then what is not mine to be responsible for that I get to keep giving back to that owner. And that includes team members, right? This is a whole thing with team. This is something I think all of us, I know I've had to definitely do work around this. When I first started growing my team, it was probably a more challenging team leader than I am today. I think I've done so much work with my leadership and my skill sets around that. I think it's such a skill set many of us don't have coming into business, where I think I probably was taking on more responsibility for things that just weren't my responsibility with team. And that's really frustrating to team. Like that's really hard for team to do their job. And that's the opposite of blame. Like, that's the opposite of blaming team, right? Sometimes I would blame team, but it would also just make it really quick to blame myself, but to take on that responsibility. And so even with team, I can see what a difference this makes and how I just really see clients, especially like when I have clients at the $1 million+ mark and they have larger teams often, this is so important that we're looking at how do we take the appropriate responsibility. And remember, leadership starts at the top and trickles down. It means we've got to stop blaming everyone for what's going on in our business and to take that personal responsibility, but also know where to delegate, where to give responsibility back. And then kind of the flip side of this with the blame part is, right, so we don't want you blaming yourself for everything, and we want you taking appropriate responsibility. And when I say blame yourself, that also means, not making yourself wrong, because sometimes shit just happens and it is your responsibility, but that doesn't mean you're wrong. It just means you're a human and you fucked up, or there's a learning mistake, like a growth mistake or something happened. And so I really, that doesn't mean we're not taking a look at things and taking personal responsibility, but those clients, and what I would invite you to be thinking about is how can you take personal responsibility for what's yours without blaming yourself and making yourself wrong. That nuance and difference makes all the difference in the world. We're never going to get to all these points. I feel like I have so much to say on all of these, but I was talking about this with a client this week. My calendars weren't syncing. This is a whole different conversation, but like technology is sometimes I love technology for everything it does to connect us, and sometimes it makes me crazy. So how my clients book calls was not syncing with my calendar, which is where it tells me when to be on calls. So I almost missed a client call. A client messaged me at Basecamp this week and was like, hey, like, don't we have a call? And I was like, oh, it's not on my calendar. I looked in Satori where they schedule, and it's like, she definitely had a session. Luckily, it was only a couple minutes, and I was able to give her that extra time and everything was fine. But the point being here is, what I had to be mindful thereof is not blaming Satori, not blaming Google Calendars, not blaming myself and saying, oh my gosh, I'm a piece of shit coach and spinning out, but also taking appropriate responsibility, right? That also was my responsibility to clean up, to take care of, to make sure we're sorting out the tech, to make sure that doesn't happen again, to make sure the client is still served and taken care of. And so that's what I mean with, they're not focusing on blame. Blame is such an unhelpful way to spend your time and energy, just like comparison is very unhelpful. Blaming, if I had gotten mad at Satori and blamed them, right? Like that literally wouldn't have been helpful. If I had blamed my Google Calendar or whatever, like literally not helpful. If I had blamed myself and said, oh my gosh, I'm a piece of shit, like whatever, like I made myself really wrong, literally not helpful. But there is responsibility that has to be taken there, right? Something happened, like that was not great. It was at the end of the day fine, but I needed to also, as a CEO and as a business owner, take the appropriate responsibility to adjust, to take, to fix, to correct, right? To navigate, to manage, to handle that. And I definitely didn't need to put that responsibility on my client or on my team or on the people who, run Satori or whatever the thing is, when that's not at all what was going on. So, and let's just say in that scenario, it happened because a team had made a mistake. Then it's still for me to take personal responsibility as the person running my team, right, with a client, and then also to have the conversation and to not blame a team member, but to help them see what their responsibility is and helping to correct, solve, fix, manage this solution. So hopefully that makes sense there in terms of what I'm talking about, in terms of they're not using their sessions to compare or to blame. However, this is the nuance I want to say. This does not mean that my clients who are making $250K a year or $500K a year, that they aren't human and that they never have comparison stuff come up, or that my clients making, $1 million+ with big teams, that they never have a moment of humanness where they don't want to play the blame game, either with themselves or others, right? It's just that is not where predominantly they are spending their brain energy and focus, and they're either really quick then to bring that to a session to say, hey, this is coming up, let me work through this because I want to be focused on my lane. Or they're catching it, right, and like bringing to our call like what they need help getting focused around. So it feels important to say that, again, like you get to be human. It's not like you become less human, but I do just see how like again, using myself as an example, I'm sure 8 years ago, if that like tech mix up had happened, I probably would have played the blame game, just blaming myself and feeling horrible. Like it would have been probably a whole thing, as opposed to, I mean, I definitely didn't feel great about that. I'm sure if you asked my client, I was like profusely like, I'm sorry that that happened, but it didn't spin me out. It was, I didn't need to use a session with my coach around this, and I didn't, like I could not have my session. It was a 1 minute thing, and then that got to be solved. And so again, you need to have a timeline on how quickly you move through this stuff, but I really want you to see it's like the focus is really on noticing when comparison, when blame comes up, and seeing how unuseful, how unbeneficial that is to your business, to your success, to your clients, to your team, to your ability to generate revenue, to your alignment, right? To all of these pieces. And the sooner than you can catch, hey, I'm in comparison, I'm in blame. These are just really unhelpful places to be in, and bring yourself back to what do I want to focus on instead. I find like that's just really the game my clients are playing at that level, and that I just see make such a big difference. I just see they're just so much quicker to want to shift into that place. Just see if we have no questions. Now, I have so many bullets on this, and we just got through two, so we might have to turn this into a two-parter. You have to let me know in the comments now or on the replay if you're liking these, if you want me to do a two-parter, but I think we can get through at least one more. Let me see which one of these I want to, because there's quite a few here. I think we get through maybe two. So I'm going to go through this one next, maybe combine it. So another thing these clients do not focus on, and I think this one is actually quite important to speak to, what I have just rarely seen a client at this stage of business focus on is what is working for someone else, or ask me what's working for other clients, or paying attention to, and again, this is a little bit of like the comparison game, but I mean this a little differently. I think when it's very easy when you're starting your business and you're starting to make your first 6 figures and you're not exactly sure what works for you in business or what creates a result, I think it is very easy to want to spend all of your time, not just in comparison, but really looking at what are other people doing, what's working for other people, how can I do that, as opposed to what's working for me, what's working in my business, what is my business telling me works, what is my audience telling me they want. And this is nuance. All of this has nuance. That being said, I do see clients at this stage, and I will raise my hand and say I do the same, studying what is working for other businesses in the online space in marketing, right? Studying and maybe funnel hacking, but not looking at, I need to focus on what's working for so-and-so, and more, how can I just overall globally understand what's working currently, what's working in a funnel, maybe what's working for a webinar setup, maybe what's working for ads, and then really use it to get back and focus on my own lane. I feel like that is the theme of our conversation today, to really see how can I then make it my own and really work it so that it is working for my business, for my audience, for my offers. And I think that is the distinction. So I don't want to make this seem, because success does leave clues, right? And sometimes it is really valuable to take a look at overall what's working and to study that. I think I should probably share this in different ways, but we started playing with Reels January this year, and this was actually fun. I was a guest at my friend Leah's retreat on Monday. We guest talked, and one of the things I was sharing, because I was talking a little bit about growing this Facebook group, one of the things I said is we've now started focusing on creating content for Instagram, and then we share it here in this group with y'all. And I've noticed within the 6 months, we now get traffic equally from the Facebook group to Instagram, which I think is pretty remarkable for probably started happening like around the 4 or 5 month mark. Anyway, I think that's pretty remarkable actually, because we've been focused on this group for so long, and this group is about double the size of my Instagram following. So anyway, that's fun. But the point to what we're talking about here, and to what I was sharing, and kind of not focusing on what worked for so-and-so, but also like finding that line where it's also okay to study what's working in the industry. Part of what's helped me have content work on Instagram is I also did spend time studying what's working in the industry. I did spend time studying what's working with Reels and investing in some education there and studying other people's things. But here's the big difference. Instead of seeing, oh, this is what worked for so-and-so and I need to do exactly what they're doing, right? Because I've just never, in fact, anytime I have like taken a hook that someone else has used and I'm like, well, that worked for so-and-so, let me use the same hook. And I tried to like, obviously make my own and not copy, but like try to use it. I did there's nothing wrong with Reels memberships, but I did one for a month where you use, like they give you hooks so that I could learn how to, I just wanted to learn Reels a little bit more. And honestly, I found that those are my worst performing Reels. Not to say that the program isn't good, but because of what we're talking about here, what I've really just found is it's generally, if I just do exactly what someone else is doing, that's what's going to work in my business, right? That kind of goes back to the alignment part we were talking about, doing things on your term. And that's also because every business, even if you have the same exact business model with a really similar like problem solve and results focus as another business and a very similar like crossover audience, you still have a slightly different like positioning, and your branding is different, and like the people you really attract are a little bit different. And so like there's all of these pieces we forget. So if we're just focused on what worked for someone else and trying to do that, we're always just going to end up missing the mark. And it's not that it can't work, it's just it usually doesn't work as well, because basically what that means is we're focusing on what worked for someone else instead of getting clear on what's your magic, what's your voice, what's your thought leadership, what works for you, what does your audience want to hear from you, right? We're missing on infusing that. And those are the pieces. I feel like this has been what I've been a broken record about for probably forever, but definitely recently as the online space has gotten more saturated. Like those are the pieces that make your messaging stand out. Those are the pieces that will make your business blow up. When we look on Instagram as a great example of this, when you look at so many people using the same trending audio, using the same hook, right, doing the same strategy, it's these pieces, right? It's when people can infuse themselves, their brand, their essence, their message, their magic, what makes them different, right? Like that's the whole game. Like we're trying to differentiate. When you bring that in, that's what makes things pop. And I think that's why people can sometimes get really frustrated. They're like, well, I'm doing the same thing as someone else. Why am I not getting results? And it's like, well, that's why, because you're doing the same thing as someone else, instead of using the model of what's working to then make it your own and make it work for you in your business. And so that's a really big thing I see with clients at this stage is, yes, they might look at what's working and understand that, but they really don't focus on what someone else is doing and trying to mimic that. And they also focus on making things their own, but they're also just never coming to a call and they're like, well, I don't understand, like so-and-so is using this strategy, why isn't it working for me? Or like, what did that client of yours do to get that result, right? Not that there's anything wrong with that or to make anyone wrong who's ever asked that, like I'm available for that conversation. But I think about myself, for example. I've worked with the same coach for over 6 years as we just renewed, and she has many clients who are making $1 million plus. And I'm just thinking about like, I don't know that I've ever gone to a session and asked how another client is getting the results they're getting, because I just know it, outside of maybe inspiration, it's just so irrelevant to me and my business and my lane. Kind of coming back to our theme of our call, I know what's more important is getting support around what works for me, what is my magic, what is my business model, how am I getting in my own way, and definitely focusing on what's working for someone else is going to get me in my own way. So this is, I feel like this is a little bit like the comparison piece, but in a different way. I really just see how if you can start to notice where you're just trying to focus on what worked for someone else and instead focus more on what works for you, what your audience wants to hear from you, what works for your business, the more you will just see your results blow up. And again, that Reels example, I think is such a great example. And again, with that nuance, that doesn't mean you can't study what's working or funnel hack or growth hack. Absolutely not. But I think the difference is study what's working for other people and then use that. And even if you do get a template or buy a course or something that's like showing you how to do something, like use that. And then usually what you'll find is you use that, and then when you can make it your own and then study the data from your own business as to how something's working, that's usually when you're going to get the best results. I just seen if we have questions. Okay, no questions. All right. We got time. Let me go through one more. Okay, so this one, we'll see if we get through two. I'm gonna go to this one next though, because I feel like this is a little bit kind of in the same theme of staying in your lane. So my clients at this level, I'm trying to think of how I want to frame this. I wouldn't say that they don't focus on shiny objects, but it's more that they're really aware of what a shiny object will cost them in their business and really mindful to bring to the table and to check in if something is a shiny object and to be mindful if they're going to invest time and energy in a shiny object. And what actually Alex Hormozi describes this in a really beautiful way, the way I want to describe this. What I notice, and I'll use his example, but what I notice with clients at this level, what they are really aware of is what generates results in their business and what generates revenue in their business. And they doesn't mean they don't like ever wobble around this or ever need my support around this. I mean, definitely some of my job is to keep them in their lane and to avoid shiny objects for sure. But I think they've just gotten more practice at seeing that the grass isn't greener somewhere else, and that anytime they want to go see like, oh, the grass is greener with another offer, the grass is greener with another audience, the grass is greener with another business model, the grass is greener with a different marketing strategy, the grass is greener with a different social media platform, right? Whenever that comes up, I get faster and more available to see. That's usually because there's something on their own lawn they don't want to have to deal with, that they can't see in the grass is greener story. And so what I mean by that is, let's just say you're using Instagram for marketing, since we were just talking about that, but it's just feeling frustrating, or you're not getting the reach you want on Reels, or it's not converting the way you want. I think it's very easy and to say like, well, great, what if we start focusing on Facebook? What if we start focusing on LinkedIn? What if we start focusing on email or on podcasting or on YouTube, right? Because I just heard so-and-so talk about how like YouTubing is the thing, or I just heard so-and-so Kim talk about her Facebook group and how, you know, she got fully booked using Facebook groups. So like, let's just jump over to that. And usually when we're doing that, it's because whatever it is we're focused on, our current grass, our current lawn, right, it has some weeds. Or we've planted the seeds for grass and they haven't sprouted yet. Or basically we're not watering and tending our own grass, or like that actually just feels like work. And so all we can see is the green grass from afar of another platform, of another strategy, of another offer. And we get allured by it, right, where we want to go over to that. And if you've been in business long enough, what you start to learn is as soon as you get allured and you go over to that other lawn where the grass seems greener, it's got the same freaking weeds, or maybe instead of dandelion weeds, it's got I don't know the names of weeds. It's got a different type of weed, or maybe it's got a drought instead of weeds, right? But there's just still something to contend with. What I see keeps so many business owners really stuck is they are forever looking for where is the grass the greenest, instead of how can I water the grass I'm on, tend to the grass I'm on, stay in this patch of grass, even if there's a drought coming. If anything, like expand it, like grow a larger patch of grass, but instead of always looking for greener grass that I can jump to. And I just see clients at this stage, again, it doesn't mean they're not human and they don't have the syndrome of the grass is greener, but they're just, I think, so much more understanding of that is just a lie and false, and the grass is not actually greener. The grass is, what is the saying? The grass is greenest where you water it. And they've just become really disciplined around that, or around checking in with that. I was going to say, Alex Hormozi uses a great example of this. He calls it the woman in the red dress. And he talks about, he's a male, but he talks about how, this happens in relationships where, you can be in a great relationship and people sabotage great relationships because, they're just always like seeing a woman in a red dress and thinking like, oh, like this relationship is starting to get boring, or we've just had a fight, or whatever the thing is going on in the relationship, and they see the sexy woman in the red dress that they want to be allured by, but always, this is maybe horrible the way he describes it, but basically always how, the woman in the red dress, like, has all the same problems, but usually she's really crazy, or she's just got a different set of crazy. But how the woman in the red dress changes, like maybe it's a purple dress one time, but there's always just like, it's just so easy to get allured. And anytime he's been allured by the woman in the red dress in business, right, it's just the crazy that woman in the red dress brings is always bigger than whatever he's just currently contending with. And it's always just because he doesn't want to deal with what's going on currently. And so he now knows like there's just like nothing better over there, even if it seems alluring and sexy. I'm probably doing a horrible job describing that, but I think that's a little bit like the grass isn't greener. It's just very alluring. So I think that is one of the ones I really see. I wrote a post about this recently, and I definitely talk about this at the retreat. I think something we forget, no one wants to hear this, no one wants to know, like believe this, but it is just so true. Look, there are outliers and exceptions to every rule in business, always. So, you could probably find the cases that this is not true, but for the most part, for those of us who are not outliers, most businesses are going to do the best picking one platform, picking one core offer, one platform, one strategy, and working those to 6 figures or more, many to multi-6 figures, some to up to $1 million before they add on another strategy, another offer, another platform. Like I dare you to just go all in on one offer and one strategy and one platform, right? And like work that to multi-6 figures or like I just started focusing. I've been in business 8 years, y'all. We make about $350K plus per year from one-on-one. And I just started focusing on a second platform this year. And I was sharing this with the retreat at the beginning of my first year in business. I didn't do that, right? I was on all of the platforms and I had one-on-one and I tested a membership offer and I tested a group program offer. I did all of the things and I was making between 800 to probably 2,000 to 3,000 per month, right? As soon as I stopped focusing on what worked for other people and stopped doing the, chasing the lady in the red dress or chasing shiny objects or trying to see like the grass is always greener and just started watering my grass and focusing on one offer, one platform, one strategy, I got fully booked. I had my first 10K month. My next month was a 24K month, right? And we've had 60 or 61 10K to 40K cash months since. So let that be some evidence for you. And this is the same for my clients. Of my clients who have scaled to $1 million, so I've had many clients scale to high multi-6. Two of my clients who scaled to $1 million, I think, only had one offer, and then the other one who had multiple offers, but that made sense for her business. So just to keep that filed away. I'm just looking at the time. I'm going to give you one other quick one. I'll just give a really, really quick Cliff's Notes on this. So the other thing I just don't see my clients who are making $250K to $2 million plus focus on. I just don't see them focus on how things aren't working in their business. And I don't think they ever come to a session saying, this isn't working. Why isn't this working? However, they absolutely are paying attention to their data and their strategy to pay attention to what's working and not working. And they are looking at, how do I make this work better? Or, hey, we've got a challenge here. This isn't working the way I would expect it to. What's the right problem to solve? So this isn't to say that they're complacent, or this isn't to say that they're burying their head in the sand, or this isn't to say that they're just like constantly chanting everything's working and the definition of sanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results if it's not bringing in results. But it is a very different approach and mindset from nothing's working, this isn't working, right? Like almost, I feel like when we get into that place, and I think all of us have been there, I'm sure my first year of business, I probably was like, nothing's working and gave all my power away. But I do think when we're doing that, we're just giving our power away a little bit. We're giving our power away to the internet, to all the things. Or we're giving our power away to our coaches, right? We're like, you take this on and you tell me the right thing to do, which we talked about earlier, right? Like that's really a really easy way to get out of alignment. That said, all of these clients, we talked about the personal responsibility and like keeping your eyes on your own paper and in your own lane, they're absolutely taking a look at data. They're definitely not complacent, right? They're always looking at how to sustain or how to improve something, but it's a very different mindset. It's not a giving away power away mindset, or giving their power away to like things aren't working or getting stuck in that story. It's more from the lens of, this isn't working the way I could expect, or how can we get this to work better? Or I know this could work better, right? It's just a different mindset. And so it's much more of a problem identification, problem solving mindset, as opposed to an I give up, or I'm giving my power away, or like this can't be solved, or let me go focus on a shiny object, or woman in the red dress. So I'm diving into that one briefly just because of time, but I do see that as such a difference in mindset and approach. And just even like I think about the clients who are scaling like right now from 6 figures to multi-six, I just really see for those clients how they've just really shifted into that CEO mindset that is just a lot more neutral. And like they don't ever get frustrated or have high expectations, but that is just so much more looking at like, hey, look at what I built. This is great. I have a client right now who's building out a funnel, and like her like CEO mindset is just so brilliant right now. She's just in this place where she's like, yeah, I mean, of course we want this to perform. Like we want to like increase the conversion rate, but she's just so in the mindset of like, but here are all the things that are working. Like I'm so proud of myself. This is great. And also like, what are the like few gaps? What's the right problem to solve? What are the levers we can press to increase the conversion rate? Because I want to convert better. Or, you know, we want to get more traffic through it, or whatever that looks like. And that is such a game changer, because then you can actually focus on the things that improve your funnels, right? That get you bigger results. That's how you actually get things working better and better. That's how you actually do less better, as opposed to when you're looping around the story of things aren't working. That's a whole mindset thing, right? That's digging a hole, that's giving your power away. We got to work on getting your power back and your focus back so that you can then identify the right problem to solve. Which, let's say it's a strategy problem. If you're spinning out on things aren't working, that's a mindset problem. We first got to deal with the mindset to then be able to focus on the strategy. So not to make that wrong, but that's why I just see clients at this level, or they're just not willing to give their power energy away to spinning out in that way. Instead of, they're just so aware of like, that just loses me months in my business, that I've got to like dig myself out of the hole to then get refocused, to then find the right problem, to then solve, right? Like that just delays results, as opposed to like, this is great, it could be better. What's the gap to close? Let's focus on that. Let's execute on that, right? Like that just speeds up results all day, every day. Okay. Just seeing here. Okay, I don't have any questions from you all. I hope this was valuable for you. Let me know if you want me to share more of these. We can always do another live stream. But more than anything, I hope that this is helping you see, just to summarize this, a couple of things. One, yes, it's important, you know, success leaves clues. Yes, it's important to see what people are focused on, but it's also, I think, as valuable to notice what people aren't focusing their time and energy, because as entrepreneurs, you can always make more money, but you can't get back your time and energy, right? Your time and energy is your most precious commodity. And so starting to notice what people are willing to give their time and energy to and what they're not is so valuable, and will give you so many clues as to what will create more success for you. And again, what we covered today is just a thin slice. I think maybe we will do another live stream, because I think there's just so much more there around that. But I think this is just a helpful thing to start thinking about, and to start looking at your business and to notice, as much as what you pay attention to, there's what you don't focus on, or to like be able to harness, take your power back, take your energy, take your focus, take your time back. That's going to speed up results. If I was going to summarize today's live stream into one thing, it's really noticing where you're focusing on someone else's lane, someone else's lawn, right? Someone else's paper, and seeing the more you are focused on your lane, your path, your journey, your paper, the more you are going to win at the game of business, the better you're going to feel, the more in alignment you're going to be, the more you're going to speed up results, the more money you're going to make, the better you're going to serve your clients, right? The more the whole ecosystem is going to work. And so, yeah, if we were just going to boil it down to one thing, that is the piece I would say more than anything. What I don't see my clients focus on is just other people's lanes, paper, lawns, whatever analogy we want to use there. So I hope that's valuable for you. If you're hearing this and you're thinking, gosh, this is something I could use support with, either from the mindset perspective of, you know, how do you cultivate that CEO mindset so that you can be a bit more neutral, so you're not getting activated and jacked up by comparison or by blame, because those are human normal things. How can you create the focus and the ability mindset wise to stay in your power and to trust yourself and to stay focused on your own lane? But also, how can you create that strategy then, right? If we're not creating strategies based on what worked for everybody else, how do you create a strategy that really works for your business? How do you know what your audience wants? How do you identify and tap into and own your voice and your message and know what to speak to? How do you know what steps to put in front of one another? How can you take a look at the right problems to solve in your strategies, in your funnels, to improve them, to get bigger and better results, so that you're making whatever is next for you, whether that's getting fully booked for the first time, making your first 10K month, making consistent 10 to 20K months, or all the way up to 100K months and above. I would love to connect with you. That is exactly what I support my clients with all day, every day. We have a one-on-one spot opening up in the next couple of months. I'll drop a link for a free discovery call or consultation call for that. I've also opened up, every month I open up a couple of my coaching strategy intensive, my Your Marketing Multiplied strategy intensive. It's a week-long intensive where you get one-on-one time with me, both in session and between session support, and a bonus content or copy review where we dive in together and we completely update your marketing strategy so you have a really holistic customer journey along with the updated messaging, right? That isn't based on what other people say or just on surface level words. It's really tapped into your thought leadership, your zone of genius, your branding, what you want to be known for, and you know how to articulate and communicate that in a way that actually stands out in 2024 and that lands and speaks to your people in a way that they're like, oh, this person, this is my person, this is who I want to follow, this is who I want to consume content from, this is who I want to buy from, this is who I want to hire. That is one of my coaching zones of geniuses. Geniuses, is that the right? Is it genius? Can you say, is that how you say the plural on that? Grammar and spelling is not my zone of genius, but that is something I'm excellent at supporting clients with. I love the strategy intensive. I just had someone halfway through it and they've already, like, trying to do the math on that. They have like 10 times their investment already and they're halfway through the intensive. So it's also like nearly impossible not to get an ROI from it because it's ridiculously well priced. So if you're interested in that, I will drop a link for you. Those are limited. They have been booking up every month because I have a full one-on-one roster, so I can only open up so many of those. But I will drop a link. You can book directly through that, or if you want to hop on a call to talk about what it could look like or a different strategy, intensive focus, I will also drop, or you can just book that free discovery call and we can chat through that. Either way, I would love to support you if you are feeling called towards that. It is literally my pleasure and what I'm the best in the world at, and I look forward to connecting with you. And either way, I'll be back next week with another topic for you. Lots of love. Thank you for being here. Bye.